Okay, we find ourselves here with
Chris Bodor.
Robert Waldner.
Okay, you guys meet here once a month for the Ancient City Poets, and this month of March, it's very special. Can you tell me why?
Yeah, we actually got an invitation from Michael Rothenberg, who is the co-founder of 100,000 Poets for Change, and he asked us, he's based out of Tallahassee, and he asked us if we'd like to gather and do poems for Parkland. And so we said, yeah, we gather on the last Sunday of every month, so we're going to dedicate the March one to that initiative. So that's what we're planning to do today.
I mean, yeah, today was a great opportunity to just hear people's perspective on what's been going on in the world lately, especially with Parkland, and kind of express into words, you know, how they feel about it.
So all the poems that we're going to hear today are related to Parkland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And about how many people we have who are going to take the open mic?
We have about 20 people signed up.
All right. All right. Well, I hope this event is successful, and let's see what comes of it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming out to our Poems for Parkland poetry reading. This is in conjunction with 100,000 Poets for Change, which is a global initiative. And this event is really about ending gun violence in America. I'm gonna get us started off. My name is Robert Waldner, by the way. I'm going to get us started off with an article that I wrote for the latest issue of Old City Life magazine that pertains to this subject in particular. And it's about an organization called St. Augustine Youth Services, and they actually have a mobile crisis response team that works with the school system to deal with kids, students that have mental health issues and stuff like that. So the name of the article is Response Needed, Need Met. The recent tragedy in Parkland, Florida, being so close to home and so fresh in our minds, has left our community with an increased concern for the safety of our own children. However, long before this tragic event, two organizations understood the growing concerns for youth mental health and school safety in St. Johns County and found ways to help to address the problem. In March of 2015, the St. Johns County School District joined with St. Augustine Youth Services, a local nonprofit organization, to launch a mobile crisis response team. The launch resulted from the realization that there was an increasing need to provide students, families, and school staff with more effective mental health resources. Skylar Siefker, CEO of SAYS, explains, any child-serving agency in the county can call us and we will send out a mental health counselor to assess a student deemed to be a threat to themselves or others. Prior to the MCRT, most crisis situations resulted in Baker acting, in which students would be taken involuntarily by a law enforcement officer to a mental health facility for assessment. Our goal, says Siefker, is to divert hospitalization if possible and provide more effective, immediate, and long-term mental health services to students. The MCRT has been able to divert 79 to 84% of Baker acts in the county and has provided youth with complete wraparound care, ensuring the success of St. Johns County children struggling with mental illness. Kyle Dressback and Kelly Battelle have played a role in the positive impacts of the MCRT from the school district side. Dressback, the Associate Superintendent of Student Support Services, says, it has been extremely helpful to have mental health professionals work with students rather than involving law enforcement because of the students' increased comfort level. Director of Student Services, Kelly Battelle, explains, our social workers create support plans with students, parents, and school staff, which are in effect for 6 months. During that time, school district personnel make frequent follow-ups. On behalf of the MCRT's overwhelming success, Battelle says, we have seen far more calls to the crisis team than Baker acts. Unfortunately, as a state-funded program, the MCRT has fallen victim to budget cuts. We used to employ 3 full-time mental health counselors, a registered nurse, and a case manager. We now have only 2 counselors, 1 full-time, and we no longer have access to a registered nurse, states Siefker. The cutbacks strike close to State Representative Cindy Stevenson's heart. Representing Florida's 17th District, which covers northern and central St. Johns County, St. Augustine, and St. Augustine Beach, Stevenson has worked tirelessly to secure more funding for these valuable programs. Kids are showing a lot of stress these days. She says, addressing her governmental role, Stevenson elaborates, we are asking for more funding for mental health crisis teams. I expect more services to help more children in this year's budget. Embodying the objectives she's working towards, Stevenson asserts, it is important to make personal connections every day. Because of Parkland, I have readjusted my focus on people. We all have a basic need for compassion. We need to show our youth that we care. SAYS will be holding 2 upcoming events in which proceeds will go towards funding for its vital programs. The 5th annual Party for Prevention will be held at the SAYS campus, 201 Simone Way, on April 14th at 11 a.m., and the Wildwood Fishing Tournament will be held on June 8th and 9th. Both are open to the public, with the notion that everybody can make a difference. For more information on either event, visit sayskids.org or call 904-829-1770. That being said, I thought that was a relevant article to what we're discussing today. So please come up and show, share your words on Parkland and the issue of gun violence with the rest of us. Thank you. Now I'm going to call up Chris Bodor.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming out and addressing the issue of poetry and how poetry can heal and how poetry can offer hope and how poetry can restore faith in mankind. That's kind of a lofty goal. Can that be done? I'd like to think so. So this is a way that we share our thoughts and share our feelings, and it's only fitting that I share this with you, and an invitation, something to chew on. A poem in my pocket, sonnet in my sock, hymn in my heart, song in my soul, poem in my pocket. Do not read between the lines. Lay down your weapons. Open up your minds. Poetic words are flowers, and vulgar words are weeds. Pull a poem from your pocket. Give the earth what it needs. Plant poem seeds. This is one of many gatherings here in Florida. I'm grateful to Michael Rothenberg, the co-founder of 100,000 Poets for Change. He got in touch with us and invited St. Augustine to gather in the name of Parkland. And there are other readings that have been going on in Jacksonville. There was one on Friday night, and throughout in Tallahassee as well, and other locations too, all around the March gatherings. So again, thank you so much, and let's address this issue together. I would like to bring up Persia, who has something very appropriate to share for today's gathering.
Hello everybody, my name's Persia. And I'm just going to say that what I did bring was a long poem, but there isn't time today to read it. It's how an entire village was destroyed because none of the people in the village had any weapons. They had their hoes and their axes to do farming or build barns and houses. And so the Nazis came in with their superior weapons they bought from the Americans, and they killed every single human being in the entire village. But there isn't time to read it. I'll have to save it for next month. And I'm going to read this, and I'm sure you'll all recognize the author. Our revels now are ended. These are our actors. As I foretold you, we're all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded by a sleep. Thank you. Anybody recognize the author?
Shakespeare.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, my name is Ben Atkinson. I'm going to read two poems that I composed with today's reading in mind. The first of which is a little bit more lighthearted, although it was actually written about protesting in the wake of the invasion of Iraq. So it's called Dharma. Lost in transcendent rhythm, believing in the beat, countless stars shine down around our bright bonfire, drumming for peace in 03, 2 years post 9/11, pounding my palms on goat skin until they hurt. In the heart of the circle, I break a prof's drum, hand carried back from his pilgrimage to Nepal. Scholar of Eastern religion and philosophy, Dr. K simply flashes a beaming Bodhi grin, says, "All things are impermanent." Thank you. I'll come full circle with that. You'll see why I read it in a moment. The next one is called Lazarus. It's in 5 vignettes, so I'll read the number right before the part. Lazarus, 1. I died the other day, just to make a statement. We left classrooms, protested unending violence. Suddenly, students shouting, "It's time to lie down." 17 minutes for 17 lost lives. Lying down for the die-in, a bell tower played an unfamiliar melody as the clock struck 10, less distracting than the shutter clicks of cameras capturing our still images. Old bricks, solid, cold, seeped into these bones as I played dead. Students with dreadlocks, professors in bow ties, side by side on the ground. We protested vulnerability with signs and silence. A troubled kid from class last fall sat staring, leering, peering from the edge of the crowd, made me nervous. Even security keeps tabs. Could he become the next shooter? Sun and shadow played through my opaque lids. Students piled up. Our motionless bodies spoke. 2. I was born May 4th, Margaret Thatcher sworn in, 9th anniversary of the Kent State Massacre. Those shots fired 2 hours from my hometown. Neil Young blasted tragedy, sang 4 dead in Ohio. I grew up with guns. They provided us with food. Dad didn't make much, but was a successful hunter. His deep appreciation for wildlife was learned well. Treat hunts in reverence, mindful of native tribes. An NRA member, but not blind in his support. Dad withdrew membership when they refused to support a ban on bump stocks or assault rifles. As a teen, obsessed with Lenin, but a year old when he died, his gun death still stung, I thought we could will away weapons and the world would be a better place. 3. Standing on the high dive, blindfolded, fully dressed in camouflage and combat boots, rubber M16 above my head, pushed over the edge. Fall into the water, keep the gun above at all costs. I climbed the ranks of JROTC, loved the camaraderie, challenges, teamwork, but was growing into my skin as a conscientious objector. When friends signed up for the army, I dropped out, grew my hair long. I was just playing soldier. Friends' free college came with a price they could never really pay. PTSD and broken marriages, reaching for pistols that weren't there anymore. Only when deep in the cups, late in the evening, do their stories sometimes trickle out. 4. My grandfather was a medic in World War II, bearing permanent scars, one from a bullet. At another angle, would have prevented my family from being born. It was his fight that made it possible for people like me to lie on the ground in protest, to grow their hair out long, go to music festivals, eat freedom. 5. Maybe lying in pretend death on the cold ground just reminded I'm alive. Morning light shined on a winged lightning bolt pinned to my chest. I've become the professor, protesting with the kids. Stronger bonds through action, shared strength through demonstrated love, requires reaching into the darkness. Thank you.
Michael Henry Lee.
Good afternoon, everybody. We had a good march yesterday. Thanks. Michael Henry Lee. I'm a Japanese poetry stylist, and I'd like to read. I'd like to begin with a haiga. That's a Japanese literary style that combines prose with haiku and senryu in a subtle complementary balance, after which I'll close with one haiku and two senryu. The title of this haiban is called Red Rider. Bam! That son of a bitch just sucker punched me. No warning or nothing, just a quick jab and my lower lip was split like a melon at the church picnic. White noise, the roar of an oncoming freight train. Ours was a rough, tough working class high school. Fights were an everyday occurrence. I had my share, even got arrested once for an event at the gas station across the street, where some of the higher achievers would hang out and have a smoke before the first period. I can still see till this day that dipshit's stupid grin while I was spitting blood on my history assignment. I sure wanted to get that guy real good. Seems I recall reading somewhere in the good book, Jesus said that if you looked at another with hatred, you had already committed murder in your heart. Summer of love, all the prayers someone prayed for me. Now the NRA is preaching to everyone that it's not guns that kill people, it's people. It seems fairly obvious you can't have one without the other. Friendly fire, caught in a hail of half-truths and lies. No applause, please. Save it to the end. Guns, seemingly more precious than life itself. Guns, seemingly more precious than life itself. Late winter, forcing the daffodils before their time. Late winter, forcing the daffodils before their time. Bleeding hearts, trying to stop the hemorrhage. Bleeding hearts, trying to stop the hemorrhage. Thank you very much. Have a blessed Resurrection Day, a blessed Passover. Namaste, peace and love. Thank you.
Kimmy Van Kooten.
Good afternoon. With this recent tragedy at Parkland, within just the last month, it's come closer and closer to home for me. I have a 14-year-old daughter who came home from school a few weeks ago and said, "I don't feel safe at school anymore." And I asked her why, and she had said that some boy had said, "Out of these 3 girls, which one would you shoot?" to his friend. And I was, floored. I was scared for her. She was scared. And a day later, my son calls me from Northwestern University, texts all his brothers and sisters, and said, "I'm locked in a conference room with 29 other people, and there's a gunman on campus." I couldn't go to my poetry class with the mind that I needed to, but I did, and I wrote about it. And I wrote 3 poems I want to share with you today. One of them's called Kimmy's Corner. Today, children, let's talk about guns. Guns, guns, guns. Why are we so dumb? Why is it so easy to own just a single one? If we want to educate society any certain task, we have to sit them down, I thought, to teach them in a class. With schools for everything, so why not to own a gun? And maybe 5 signed statements from those who know us some. We must have better systems to weed out the ones on drugs, and some sort of paper trail that leads us to the thugs. We have to monitor our soldiers and their minds when they come home, help them to re-enter society, for killing isn't fun. It messes with our brains. Humans become a bit sensitive when having to kill people for political gain. Guns kill when triggers are pulled, made by man, for man, to protect their free wills. And if ever a coup d'etat, I love my country and I will never ever give my home up. Guns shoot, knives stab, and missiles will annihilate. We can't stop their abilities, but surely we can try to educate our pates. We truly can. And tomorrow, children, let's talk about our friends. This one's called Our Father Has Dead Eyes. When oak roots sprig maples and children kill children, when nothing makes any more sense, when no penicillins to ward off the mutants, for nothing's good to eat. The nutrients have left the soil and nature has been beat. Our mothers are crying, our father has dead eyes. Is our existence almost done? Can a prayer help revise? Is passion for life lost? When waters bomb the test, we'll split all our world's artifacts, and then maybe man might lay to rest. And this one's called The Power of Will, and I write it to all the children. I pray all the little children, in their willingness to be free, will be filled with a better will for action volatility. Better reactions enacting moral laws from deep down in more attentive souls to attain the power of their wills freely, but with more energy to fill their capacities. For power of will is abounding. Power of individuality is astounding. The power of freedom is love everything more. Thank you.
And Jennifer Wolfe.
Hi, folks. I write in prose. I wrote this essay, so it's not quite poetry, but I hope you'll forgive me. It's called Poetry for Parkland. What's behind the forces of evil that are killing our young people, our beautiful black men, our innocent young women all over the world? Gun culture, hate culture, power culture, military industrial complex, the unconscious masculine me. Because even I am inured. What of the girls that were stolen by the Boko Haram and taken into the woods as slaves? A 7-year-old shot in his front yard in Jacksonville. Children in schools, including my own daughter, who hid in lockdown mode in her Spanish classroom while a killer murdered her headmistress. My first instinct was to text her. Waking up, I called her. She was safe, but scared. It was unreal enough that at first I treated it like it was a minor issue. It's not. I do believe that the Women's March movement has given our young people the model for this current outpouring of energy to protest the insanity and the injustice of it all. I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that I've done a little bit to help out, but that's not enough. I didn't even write a poem for this. But I will be a drop of water in the river today. This was yesterday. Wearing my shirt and maybe carrying a banner and bringing a young woman with me. Because now I'm paying attention. And that's just the best thing I can do right now, here in the killing garden.
Hi, everybody. I'm Toni Libro, and like my friend Michael Henry Lee, who is a Japanese stylist, writer of haiku and senryu, I will also work in that area of haiku and tanka, which is the 5-line poem that predates haiku. And given that idea, I was thinking about the 17 people who died at the Parkland shooting, and the idea of 17, 17, 17 kept coming back to me because it's 17 syllables that traditionally makes up the haiku. So, thinking about that, I did compose a haiku that is prefaced with a short verse and finishes with another short verse. And it's composed of the names of those who died. Stormy skies, by the end of the day, we will know who dies. Alyssa, Scott, Chad, Martin, Nicholas, Aaron, Jamie, Chris, Luke, Kara, Gina, Joaquin, Elena. Meadow, Helena, Alex, Carmen, Peter. For those who were slain that fateful day, know that your deaths will not be in vain. May you rest in peace, but for those of us left behind, hear our cry, loud and clear, enough is enough. Thank you. Since today is Palm Sunday, those students and staff will not be here to celebrate this holiday or Passover or whatever holidays they will be missing in the future. I have a tanka about Palm Sunday, and I thought I would read it with the idea of those missing from our presence today. After Sunday Mass, braiding crosses out of blessed palms, hands flying, Nonna says, look, like this and this. If you've ever had that opportunity to make those out of palms. Thank you very much.
I'm Jorge Rivera. For those of you who don't know me, I run a website called firstcoast.tv. If you want to see the march yesterday, the masses that were there, just go to www.firstcoast.tv and you'll get a sense of the power of that march. And it was a beautiful day. Also, I ran the show called St. Augustine Tonight Show, and we've gotten to meet some people like Chris on that show, and Lee Weaver, and some others. So they were kind enough to let me read something I wrote down. I think it's a poem. You'll judge. I used to dabble in it in my 20s. So here's my shot at it. It's called Parkland Confusion. Sky full of sun and blue turquoise. Not your sky, not my sky. 17 birds through it glide. They ride, casting great dark shadows over you, over I. Life leaves naturally, peacefully, leaves with a beautiful sigh. When violence takes it, leaves an empty, stinking carcass by your side. 17 spirits, yesterday a sweet moving kaleidoscope of colorful life. Now, physical, ugly, dark, distorted caricatures lying, don't say it, in a shh, lying in a pool of blood. You said it. Where is your pride? Are we destined to murder our salvation, our saviors, our martyrs, our future, our nation, and now our children in tatters? Their bodies surrounded by stagnant dark waters mixed with blood and your pus. As far as the eye can see, those waters are powerless us. Wait, wait, wait! Rumor has it, 17 birds that glide, that ride, not birds, but 17 angels carrying innocence, casting great shadows over us. Our peril is so imminent. Angels fly with their sacred cold cargo, now low and through a shrinking abstract forest, made of the dreams, hopes, beauty, and tears of 17 who now lack life or any fears. Angels arrive to the place of the gods, placing these bodies at their feet. They weep, they weep, they weep, surrounded by dark mountains. This world was not our intention, they speak. See, the dark mountains are not mountains, but the butchered children of this world in heaps. I see Syria, I see Bosnia, I see Mother Africa. I see much more, and sadly, I see my powerless self and my confusion as I weep, inconsolably I weep. Thank you.
And Lee Weaver.
I write plays, and my wife and I present them around the country. One of the plays in the 5-play redemption series is called The Shooter, on gun violence in America. And in that play, Nanette, a TV impresario from PBS, interviews 9 different persons whose lives have been drastically affected by gun violence. She interviews the cop who killed the shooter of 20 children in Connecticut. She interviews the father of twins who were killed there in Sandy Hook. She interviews the father of the shooter himself. She interviews the father of a toddler who shot and killed her mother while rummaging in her mother's purse in the shopping market while riding in the cart. She interviews Henry Patrick, who is an avid NRA proponent. He says, "My name is Henry Patrick. It's like Patrick Henry, only backwards. Give me liberty or give me death." She interviews the father-in-law of a woman who was shot here in Green Cove Springs 2 years ago. true stories. She interviews a doctor, the first medical responder to the tragedy in Charleston when 9 folks were killed in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. She interviews a Muslim. We added that after the horrendous shooting at the Pulse Club, and now we've added another character. A clergyman from Florida. This is not meant to be read. It'll be memorized one day for the shooter. My name is Bobby Parker, and I'm the pastor of the Park United Methodist Church in Parkland, Florida. I have served that church for 22 years. 3 of the teenagers who were killed at the Stoneman Douglas High School were members of my church. I officiated at the wedding of 2 of the parents of the 6 of those 3. I baptized all 3 of the teens when they were infants. And I know many of the other families that were devastated by the shooting. I'm asked how the parents and the siblings are doing in the days since that fateful Valentine's Day, February 14th of 2018. It's a difficult question. None of them came to church on the immediately following 2 Sundays. They were in no condition to sit and pray and sing hymns while so engulfed in the enormity of this devastation. They've all been back now the last 2 Sundays, and I see them several times during the week. They helped me with my remarks for this, your symposium on gun violence in America. I want to tell you that to a person, we agree that we have needs, and it's first of all not for teachers with guns. And we don't need or want any more prayers, and we don't need or want any more of your condolences, and we don't need any more candlelit vigils. There's been enough of that. We need you to write your congressmen and congresswomen and tell them no more. Tell them never again. We need for you to vote out of office those who do not support more and better background checks. We need to vote out of office those who continue to support the notion that guns aren't the problem. We need you to vote out those who are owned lock, stock, and barrel, gun barrel, that is, by the National Rifle Association. We need you to vote out, from the president on down, those who take the NRA's money and become indebted to the makers of these weapons of mass destruction, the mass destruction of our children. Vote them out. Vote them out. Our God gave us all that we need to accomplish these goals. But don't look for him or her or however you think of your God to do it for us. I believe we are created in God's image. I believe that means we have the divine power ourselves. Please, no more prayers and condolences sent to us, but if you insist on praying about it, pray that you will have the will, the courage, the resolve, the moral strength to resist, to march, to stop the insanity, to vote them out. No more, no more, never again, for God's sake and for our children's sake. No more. Enough is enough. Thank you.
I'm Loretta Leto, and I'm an award-winning poet. I never come up here and say that, but I should say it more often. But I'm trying to convince myself I'm a writer. So, I didn't think there would be anything that would surpass the women's movement, but I think there is. And I've been very fortunate that I went to the march in Washington, not, for the women's movement. I actually marched on Mar-a-Lago, April 15th of that year too, to ask for his taxes. And I marched yesterday, and I saw Michael Lee, and we got to take a picture. And so, does anyone know anything about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas? Because I didn't. And I keep hearing these kids, and I'm going, where'd they learn to speak so eloquent? I can't even get up here and speak like they were speaking yesterday. And she was an amazing woman. She lived to be 108 years old. She was an advocate for the Everglades, an inductee to the National Wildlife Federation, National Women's Hall of Fame, and was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1993 by Bill Clinton. And she spent a lot of her life dedicated to environmentalism. And here's a quote from her. "Speak up. Learn to talk clearly and forcefully in public. Speak simply and not too long at a time, without over-emotion, always from sound preparation and knowledge. Be a nuisance where it counts, but don't be a bore at any time. Do your part to inform and stimulate the public to join your action. Be depressed, discouraged, and disappointed at failure and the disheartening effects of ignorance, greed, corruption, and bad politics, but never give up." So I don't know if they tell these kids when they get there this quote, but I wrote a poem a long time ago, March in 2007, when I was going through the change. It's called Baby Boomers. It's a very long poem. I've read it a couple times. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but I'm going to read the end of it. It takes you through the decades from the 1950s to the present time. I insert a lot of songs and things about technology. I'm just going to read the last part of it because my poem is Parkland's response to baby boomers. So I'm just going to read the end of it. And it ends on a very depressing note. And since I've watched these kids, I feel a new enthusiasm, actually, about life. So here's the end of it. "We scream louder than we ever thought we could, but our leaders don't listen. Trading fear of communism for fear of terrorism, it seems we remember 9/11 but forgot Vietnam. Weary of war and partisan politics, ready to retire, searching for solutions to the social security crisis, worried about cancer, AIDS, and global warming, crying but afraid the oceans may be too full to catch our tears. As we're reeling in the years, losing our religion, we imagine there's no heaven, pray there ain't no hell, never knowing how to choose between the two. But in the end, when we've burned all the fossil fuels from reptiles who became extinct during some ice age long ago, we will scramble to save the planet and ourselves from ourselves as we grasp at dreams we didn't even try too hard to fulfill until the day the music dies and our world just goes boom, baby. And when we're all gone, melted away, become extinct, our souls fed finally to cosmic circles of karma like animals of other errors, will graveyards of our remains fuel future generations? And will our children and grandchildren and their children and grandchildren suffer because we tried so hard to have more only to discover it was better to have less? So that's my poem. It's much longer than that. But, you know, the whole poem is about how we had all these ideals in the 60s, you know, equality for all and all that, and how we kind of failed. But we made some progress. And Parkland's response to baby boomers. "No, no, no," says David Hogg. "We are woke and will never give up," screams Emma Gonzalez. "Your world will not go boom. Your children and grandchildren and our children and grandchildren will not suffer because you failed at achieving your dreams of equality for all, saving planet Earth and yourselves from yourselves. But we at Parkland and our generation, the millennials, we will take up your torch. We will finish your fight, fulfill your dreams. We will not just imagine a world without religions, possessions, borders. We will have one. We will stop polluting our waters, bodies, hearts, minds. We will stop killing, hate, hunger, greed, ignorance. We will build bridges, not walls. We will make love, not war. We will put down our guns. We will erase the lines in the sand. We will live in peace. And I hope someday you will join us and the world will live as one. Hashtag Me Too, time's up, never again, enough. Thank you.
Patricia Konover.
Richard Blanco, excuse me, is a wonderful poet who lives in Maine, Cuban man from Miami. And he wrote a poem called One Today, which he delivered at the inauguration of President Barack Obama. It's very appropriate for today, and I'm going to read it. One sun rose on us today, kindled over our shores, peeking over the Smokies, greeting the faces of the Great Lakes, spreading a simple truth across the Great Plains, then charging across the Rockies. One light, waking up rooftops, under each one a story told by our silent gestures, moving behind windows. My face, your face, millions of faces in morning's mirrors, each one yawning to life, crescendoing into our day. Pencil yellow school buses, the rhythm of traffic lights, fruit stands, apples, limes, and oranges arrayed like rainbows begging our praise. Silver trucks heavy with oil or paper, bricks or milk, teeming over highways alongside us on our way to clean tables, read ledgers, or save lives, to teach geometry or ring up groceries as my mother did for 20 years, so I could write this poem for us today. All of us as vital as the one light we move through, the same light on blackboards with lessons for the day, equations to solve, history to question, or atoms imagined. The I have a dream, we keep dreaming, or the impossible vocabulary of sorrow that won't explain the empty desks of 20 children marked absent today and forever. Many prayers, but one light breathing color into stained glass windows, life into the faces of bronze statues, warmth into the steps of our museums and park benches as mothers watch children slide into the day. One ground, our ground, rooting us to every stalk of corn, every head of wheat, sown by sweat and hands, hands gleaning coal or planting windmills in deserts and hilltops that keep us warm, hands digging trenches, routing pipes and cables, hands as worn as my father's cutting sugar cane so my brother and I could have books and shoes. The dust of our farms and deserts, cities and plains, mingled by one wind, our breath. Breathe. Hear it through the day's gorgeous din of honking cabs, buses launching down avenues, the symphony of footsteps, guitars, and screeching subways, the unexpected songbird on your clothesline. Hear squeaky playground swings, trains whistling, or whispers across cafe tables. Hear the doors we open for each other all day, saying hello, shalom, buongiorno, howdy, namaste, or buenos dias, in the language my mother taught me, in every language spoken into one wind, carrying our lives without prejudice as these words break from my lips. One sky, since the Appalachians and Sierras claimed their majesty, and the Mississippi and Colorado worked their way to the sea. Thank the work of our hands, weaving steel into bridges, finishing one more report for the boss on time, stitching another wound, or stitching a uniform, the first brushstroke on a portrait, or the last floor on the Freedom Tower, jutting into a sky that yields to our resilience. One sky, toward which we sometimes lift our eyes tired from work, some days guessing at the weather of our lives, some days giving thanks for a love that loves you back, sometimes praising a mother who knew how to give, or forgiving a father who couldn't give what you wanted. We head home through the gloss of rain or weight of snow or the plum blush of dusk, but always, always home. Always under one sky, our sky, and always one moon like a silent drum tapping on every rooftop and every window of one country, all of us facing the stars. Hope, a new constellation waiting for us to map it, waiting for us to name it together.
Nanette Weaver.
My name is Susie. I'm 6 years old, and I'm really scared. Me and my class have practiced how to hide in an emergency. I'm hiding in the coat closet with Beth, but I'm still scared, and so is she. I hear a lot of noise, kids screaming and running, and what sounds like firecrackers. Oh no, Beth is bleeding. Oh no, I think...
Dale Connors.
Hello, my poem is called A Father's Lament. He called her Kitten. To everyone else, she was Jessica. She was his little girl. He had never experienced joy like that he had felt on the day she came into this world. He changed her diapers, he spoon-fed her Gerber's green peas and laughed at those faces of disgust she had made. They soon changed to a big smile when Daddy smiled. He pictured holding hands, walking through the neighborhood. He pictured her first day at preschool. She had run into class and never looked back. She made friends and impressed teachers for many years to come. The police had just left his home. They had explained about a monster who had come to the school. His mind drifted back to the Halloween when she was 6, when she had developed a fear of costumes. So he put a dandelion in her hair and she trick-or-treated as Daddy's little princess. He looked at the bed and wished she had slept the night before. He marveled at the seashell collection on her desk. It was just supposed to be another day of high school. Boredom and boys, gossip and girls. Instead, she had heard gunshots, screamed along with friends and strangers alike, scrambled into a classroom where somebody slammed the door. Tears had begun to well and brim, her legs entangled with others nearby. The teacher begged for the kids to stay down. Thoughts of Dad rushed through her mind. Would he ever hold her again? Who would take care of him if she was gone? Why was this happening? Kitten did not want to die. She wanted to go to the prom, marry, raise her own kids. She wanted to text Dad goodbye, but she couldn't because her body was frozen with fear. Yet it somehow trembled uncontrollably. The door opened slowly. She saw the worn tennis shoes cross over the threshold. The thunderous explosions roared as bullets ripped bodies apart. God, please help me, she wailed. Her pleas went unanswered. His gun sights zeroed in, and there was no cavalry to save her. Hers was just another life that he had ended, a soon-to-be talking point on the news. In 2018, there are no lone gunmen. They act in partnership with the likes of Paul Ryan, Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, and the NRA. Here on forward, each individual voter must bear the responsibility of future violence if we fail to vote the bastards out. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Lou Graves. December 31st, 2017.
Could you, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? How about now? December 31st, 2017. Another year slows to an end. The last few hours echo. In a dark bar, the air thick with smoke, fading like the last notes on a long and sad song, like a year ending. Leafless trees and flower stems without flowers. Dark skies replacing gray skies like ink spilled on barroom napkins. Her voice I heard so often in spring, a memory. Her hands and lips, a memory. Her eyes now changed. In June I filled an old boot with dirt, and a sunflower grew out of the soil. I filled a mason jar with pennies. And now the boot is just an old boot filled with dirt, and the mason jar is empty. Her laugh, an echo, a memory of spring and of sunflowers and leaves and longer days. 6 nights now I dreamt of fishing boats, and of wind and waves, drinking coffee and rum, dipping tobacco and spitting over the edge. The open sea and sky, an abyss over an abyss. Her lips and breath, a memory. And this morning I flipped a coin, not to make a decision, but rather to tip my hand, to expose my bias towards heads or tails. A voice I thought I'd heard before, and across the bar, an old man finishes his drink and leaves. Thank you.
Joe Teisan.
Okay. These are pieces of a couple of things that I wrote that I'll read to you today. The first is called Ask Yourselves, America. Look deeply into his face. You may see us all in him. Is he what we've become, or were we always thus? Ask yourselves, America. Did he take away who we were, or did he take away who we thought we were? And is this who we really are? Is he an aberration of the democratic process, or reflection of our national character finally, truly revealed? The second one is called, the piece of the second one is called Tajma Trump. To mark his place in time, the presidential library will rise like no other. In New York Harbor, I see an island forming between the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. That archaic bullshit about give us your poor is so unbottom-lined. Give the other side of our American character equal time. The Trump tri-mantra. Screw 'em, smear 'em, then sue 'em. Or seductorum linent petendum, as it will appear etched in marble, along with carp vagina. Entering the Verrazano Narrows, Miss Liberty to the port and Tajma Trump to the starboard, the twin beacons of the new America. The old songs and ringing words will also fade under the rolls of lies in the new history. Just like the news, its history will be fake as well. Just like the fake president who started it all. And then here's the last piece of another part. And the world too watches as torture freedom fizzles and dies under the deluge of Trumpist truths, and the world asks, how can it be that your democracy, so fair and clean, can choose a man so soiled, so inept, so uncouth, so uncivil and mean?
Annie Kiyonaga.
Hi, everybody. Let me angle this up. Kind of on the tall side. Can you hear me? Yeah. So yesterday I was very struck by the young woman, Emma Gonzalez. I stopped for a cup of coffee at the Starbucks, or whatever it's called, downtown, and she was featured on CNN, and she had just spoken about her classmates, and then she just stood in silence with tears rolling down her face. And her expression was just so powerful and said so much more than anything I had heard, in a sense. And then I also had the great good fortune to attend the march. And I sat up right by the stage so I could really watch the kids. And it was just so impressive. High school kids speaking with tremendous eloquence. I don't know if some of you saw the Murray Middle School kids, but they were up there 11, 12, 13 years old, I think. They spoke with such passion and self-assurance and such beauty about their lives and about what's happening. You can only feel tremendous hope when you hear these children and their valor. So my poem has to do with my response to Emma Gonzalez and all the young people, but just seeing her face with those tears going down her face on the screen yesterday, it deeply moved me, and I call it The Face of Fearlessness. Oops, hold on. She looks out on the crowd, silent, stoic, tears running down her face. A massive crowd. A crowd that extends well beyond the Washington, D.C. landscape to the watching world. Her teenage self composed, steady, grief expressed through tears, rivulets of compassion down her face. She commemorates, she, Emma Gonzalez, she through her words, her silence, that extends a little beyond those 6 minutes, etched now in our national memory. Those awful 6 minutes and around 20 seconds. Her face glows with the pure authenticity of the stance taken, fearlessness evident, emotions expressed. A glow that extends mightily, sending a Morse code to the hearts of all those open to this moment of pure humanity and transcendence, transmitted from the young, the oh so young. Come, let us lead the way to change, to protecting, to a deep caring of each other and ourselves. Let us do what must be done. Come, heed the call. Come. Thank you.
Charlie Collin.
You know, I got to go to the parade yesterday, the latter part. I got to go to the latter part of the parade yesterday and take part in it. I was on the what would be the west side of the bridge as the marchers came across, and I held back, stuffed back tears of hope. For the first time since January 9th, 2016. I hadn't felt that since then. And I know that I've been in a depression. That helps what I see now. I've long believed that a required reading in school should be Robert Ardrey's Territorial Imperative. This book implicitly revealed that we could not win the war in Vietnam long before it was over. It should be required reading for all politicians serving our country. This is a book that explores animal behavior with respect to an inherent establishment and protection of territory by creatures throughout the animal kingdom as a necessity for their very survival. If one can absorb this information and enter the reality of the removal of our various mythologies with the desired intent of isolating us from our animal natures through messages about our being blessed or chosen by some divine presence, we may be able to perceive ourselves as clever, rapacious primates with a destructive desire for dominance, politically, economically, and sexually. From this vantage point, we can today discern this behavior in the ensuing discourse of today's debate over gun rights as another aspect of a form of battle for the territory of power. As in all these battles, it is possible to trace the fear feature as an animal reaction to one side's power being threatened by another. Interesting in this conflagration is the shifting emphasis from fear of losing an alleged right to that of losing a life. It is not surprising that Saturday's March for Our Lives event seems to have created a shift in that our fear impulse to the indisputable admission by the younger generation that they do indeed fear for their lives, with no fear of admission to that fact. It may be helpful to examine our first encounter with the death of a loved one or a dear friend when we were younger. It is a powerful experience at that younger age before we become more mature and inured to it. The younger mind feels their loss much more, and they did an eloquent and honest job of expressing that in their presentations. This is what we needed to see. We seem to forget the power that such a senseless loss has on our emotions, and as we age, learn to gloss over the senseless aspects of why the loss occurred. Not so with these kids. They were able to be upfront and expose the senselessness of what happened to each of them in their varying stories, and they were able to confront the flaws in our system and acculturation and demand change. It is a mistake to discredit these students with their fresh view of the senselessness of this national atrocity. Keep it up, kids. You did our country proud. And do not let up. We need your message, because you see, all endings can be beginnings, can't they? As my Navajo friend in New Mexico used to always say when we parted, take care of your goodness, everybody.
Hi, I'm Christy Sanford, and I was at the march yesterday too. I coordinated a group of Unitarians. We had 33 people. One of those was a baby. I too was moved by Emma Gonzalez. If you ever want to see a poem of silence, 6.5 minutes long or 6+ minutes long, watch that clip of Emma yesterday. There used to be a theory in psychotherapy and in psychology that when people are violent, they're acting out perhaps the family dynamic or acting out the society's ills. And so I wrote one for the perpetrator of the Parkland tragedy. It's called Be a Man. Boys, acting out the perverse wet dream of a society in extremis. An atmosphere hangs over our heads like a semen-filled mushroom cloud. What more do you expect from the young who conflate phallic power with assault rifles? They know this position has promise. My God, you could even get to be President of the United States, or a Florida state senator, or part of that eel-filled barrel of fun, the House. Get ready to receive Christmas card from representative and wife dressed in cowboy outfits, holding rifles. It's no secret, Florida resembles a profile of balls and penis and a sidearm. This is my rifle. This is my gun. This is my state of war against women, against teens, against those who have failed to praise my 3 to 7 inches of flesh. They show us a magnified view, the big picture enlarged to the size of a 3-foot-long AR-15. Be a man. Be hard. Why are we surprised the pre-post-adolescent male is confused? After all, the president says he didn't fondle or rape anyone, but pays hush money just the same. Or his lawyer forks it over because he loves his boss so much he would take a bullet for him. Maybe he'd even provide his cock, just an amuse-bouche. You can have a good time on $30 million from the NRA. Some violent men are unhinged, like the president, but instead of wanting to screw the USA, they want to save it. They demonstrate the playing field insanity dealt them by spineless, impotent, narcissistic oligarchs who rule our health, land, justice, and bread. The perps sacrifice themselves for our survival. Tragedies we'd applaud on stage, in real life, kill us. I've just got one more, but it is about the NRA and the Russian connection. And I guess you've probably heard that Bolton advertised for the NRA in Russia, of all places. It's crazy. Okay, Russians are coming out our ears. They're slithering forth like baby snakes over the cochlea, ossicles, drum, canal, streaming out the auricle, dangling like baubles from earlobes. They wear suits tailored in Singapore. Crack one of these sartorial splendors open, and out pops an oligarch, Deripaska, Peskov, Lavrov, future Trump Tower builder, Agalarov. Money stuffed into washer-dryer, fluffs out clean, buys a condo in a fail flat. Politicos loosen their ties, open flies, and outshoot island nations that begin with C. Channel, Caymans, and Cook. Cash stashed offshore after a short vacation swims into cushy accounts in the U.S. banks. Yes, we have no banana republics but ourselves to blame. All Don the Con wanted was a string of towers in Eastern Europe. There, men know how to quell pussy riots and where to put a boot on a throat. Open eyes, ears, snouts. Vladimir is arriving by horse, riding naked to the waist. Wear a blindfold as he shimmies out of his jeans. We have a scintilla a flotilla of doubt. But go ahead, Putin protege. Teach us how to be criminal like a proper hotel czar. Give us a fake diploma and made in China tie. On St. Petersburg troll farms, Kremlin internet gangs concoct locker-up ads, invade Facebook, become new best bot friends. Interlopers zoom in, bad seeds in the shed of robins. Brigands with Bluetooths quickly learn to tweet in racist bigot lingo. You too can learn to cheat on taxes and forget to disclose. Sputtering, we cough up new Russians, a woman lawyer, Veselnitskaya, a rich chef, Prigozhin, and the banker, and in our donor, Torsion. They're shooting from every orifice now. We would send them packing in pages ripped from work by Pushkin, Akhmatova, Gogol, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, if only we could find a copy in our library of dreams. Thank you.
Well, I'm Beverly Kessler. I've been coming to the Ancient City Poets for 10 years. I'm really happy about that. Very sad occasion. It was the last time I kissed my beautiful daughter as I sent her off to school. So proud of her accomplishments, secure a great future would unfold. A sigh of relief comes over me. Feeling safe allows me to let go. For my busy life as provider, how could I possibly know? It was the last time I would see her smile or feel her soft, sweet touch. It was the last time her future hopes and dreams would radiate pride and happiness so much. Again, a failed system perpetrated a madman. Again, trusted electors didn't keep her safe. They allowed us to let our guard down, keep us blind to the risks in place. Hatred and ignorance, bullets and blood, screams through the 6-minute nightmare. Helpless teachers and students body block, but solutions and help were nowhere. It was the last time for school gun-free zones. It was the last time someone's child wouldn't come home. It was the last time for unlocked doors. It was the last time that mental illness is ignored. We're all looking for answers with great passion. And we're all inclined to take the easy way out, as the children do. Blame the gun laws, same old issue. I've heard it for decades. The cities, however, today that have the strongest gun laws, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., California, they also have the largest gun violence and crimes. So think about it. The criminals don't obey gun laws, and they don't see the cities and the schools, and they do see the cities and the schools as soft targets. The real issue is the lawlessness and the ignorance about mental illness. Taking the guns from lawful people only makes our children more vulnerable. Our forefathers knew this and escaped to America so that they could protect themselves. So where does that leave us? Well, I did a little history tour and went back to a poem I wrote a while back. Actually, I wrote this poem over the last 7 decades. It's called Politics and Media, Then and Now. Kennedy's left was like the right, but his assassination took its toll. The media then tried to get to the truth when Johnson or Nixon were out of control. It was a shame that America's name had been smut in its 200th year. The moral ethos was not much better from the Senate we still had to hear. The media's intrigue had now started to please all the snoops of hypocrisy who played similar games hoping not to be framed by their concubines likely displeased. So Carter gets in by the media's spin while the Senate toys with the aides. He socialized and ruined the economy, and our defense and space had seen better days. Then Reagan saved the day. After left to right he swayed, and the media had nowhere to go. So for 2 terms he served, we had pride, ended the Cold War, and had growth. Bush Sr.'s path was clear until the media got its grips. Congress pressured to raise taxes after he said, "Read my lips." Next, no one seemed to care as Clinton harassed women one by one. The Oval Office was defiled. His impeachment had gone wild on the lie, "I did not have sex with that woman." But the hardest job of all was to watch the towers fall from the lack of action on the 1993 attack. Why Bush W. took the blame is America's shame and just showed what our media now lacked. The media's Hollywood course in full swing. They've changed from investigated reporting once seen, and the voice of the truth is now a has-been, a "where are you, Woodward and Bernstein?" So Obama comes from nowhere for the progressives' redundant change, which caused debt, unemployment, and chaos as America's Constitution was rearranged. So Hillary got away with murder and swept Bill's women under the bus. 25 years later, with Benghazi and her email scandal, makes a run for the White House she lusts. But the media won't give her the attention she now craves because Trump's common sense and conservatism has taken the stage. Today, media divisive trash is gathered to ruin the chances of anyone on the right, as the left gets away with lies, sex depravity, blackmail, and socialism day and night. Our media used to represent checks and balances for our government of the people to stay on track. From opinionating, they refrained. News reported was the same, and a strong America did not come under attack.
Leader, I just wanted to thank everyone for gathering today and giving our response to Parkland, and one of many gatherings all over Florida and all over the United States.
All right, everybody, that takes us through our list. Thank you again for coming out to this very important event. Gun violence is something that affects all of us. As of next year, all of my family members will be in the public school system. My wife is a public school teacher, and my daughter is going into high school, and my soon-to-be 6-year-old will be in the public school system. So, and I have an 8-year-old as well. So it's something that I think about daily. But I can't always put how I feel into words, and actually some of the poems that I heard today actually put a lot of my feelings into poetry. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming out. And please remember that if you did not get a chance to read today, come out next month, and you'll get your chance to get up to the podium. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
We had the event. I myself was very impressed and very touched. So what would you guys say? You guys do this every month.
Yeah, it was amazing combination of different voices. We had young, we had old, we had men, we had women, and we had some people who were even had a lot of acting experience, and then we had those who read their poems, and it was really healthy exchange of ideas, and a little example about the power of poetry.
Some different perspectives. There were people on different sides of the political, kind of on the political spectrum. So we got some different perspectives from people as well. So it worked out well.
Do you think this session of poetry was almost therapeutic for some people, because their emotions are so raw because of the politics and of what happened in Parkland?
Yeah, it was a great example of how poetry can heal, and we encourage everyone to come on out. On the last Sunday of every month we gather, and we have a theme, and sometimes an open theme, and it's a great opportunity here in St. Augustine. So
yeah, you could actually hear the emotion in some of the readers' voices. Some people's voices cracked. It's something that affects all of us. So it's good for people to kind of have poetry as an outlet. So that's kind of what this is about.
All right. I thank you both.
Thank
you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.